Hello and welcome to the Pickup WNBA Podcast. I'm your host, Cathryn Naiker.
And I'm your other host, Freddie Rivas. What in the good God is up?
This is episode 145, baby, and it is going to be juicy.
We got a juicy up and we got some tasty socials for you to check out.
Oh, God.
At
Why?
At the WNBA Pickup Instagram, at the WNBA Pickup YouTube. Follow, subscribe, like, comment. Give us ideas, whatever. Whatever way you want to contribute is super welcome. We love chatting with our listeners, and we also love anyone that's filled out our ACAST survey. It's been going on for a while now. We're pretty much just like racking up ideas about what people want as far as our advertising goes. As you are aware, we got DraftKings going on. Shout out DraftKings, but more ads to come, and we really want the people who listen to our pod to determine what they want to hear.
Absolutely. Well phrased. Freddie, we might as well just jump right into it because this has been one of the wildest weeks in WNBA ever since we've started covering it about 5 years ago. Let's just break down a wee bit of a timeline, shall we? I'm sure all our listeners know, but just for the sake of it. Okay, so game 3, Mercury Lynx at the end of the game, a controversial play, I guess. Nafisa unfortunately goes down with another ankle injury. It's incidental contact by Alyssa Thomas going for the steal. Just a very unfortunate play at the end of what was an extremely physical game. This got Cheryl Reeve very riled up. She gets ejected. Post game, she calls out the refereeing for being incompetent. She also calls for at a league level for a change in leadership, that the league has been promoting a more physical game and not looking out for the athletes. She gets fined 6 times the amount of any other previous coach. So this is the highest fine in W history by a lot. Becky Hammon and Stephanie White supported her, and they also got fined. Cheryl Reeve was also suspended for game 4. Nafisa was out for game 4. The Lynx hard-fought game. They lose. The Mercury go on to the finals. Honestly, well-deserved by the Mercury, but we're going to get into that later. End of season press conference. Nafisa has really a press conference for the ages. I think when we look back at this whole decade in the W, we won't be able to do it without looking at this press conference. It is absolutely monumental. She talked about how this league has the best players and the best fans in the world, but she also referred to it as the worst leadership in the world. Putin still exists, but sure, it's the worst leadership in the world. I understand what she's saying though in context. She also calls out Cathy Engelbert directly in reference to multiple conversations that they have had, where she said that Cathy Engelbert said that only losers complain about refs. She also said in reference to players like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese bringing in so much money for the league, yet they have such low salaries, that apparently Cathy Engelbert said in response to that they should, quote unquote, be grateful that they have a league that gives them a platform to make so much money off the court. Cathy, after this, released a statement stating she was disheartened by the characterization of her statements. And a lot of players have spoken out in support of Nafisa Collier's statements. I haven't seen anyone against her statements. I'll say that. Like, some people are quiet, perhaps, but I haven't seen anybody speak out against it. But people are now calling for Cathy Engelbert's resignation, and there's questions about whether or not she will be the one to negotiate this new CBA. Absolute bombshell these last few days, Freddie. There's a lot to cover here. We're going to start talking about the post of these last game 3 events and the reaction to the referees, which also led to Nafisa's statements after the fact. So let's start there, Freddie, because you and I were talking about this, uh, to ourselves before this week's pod, and we had some differing opinions when it comes to players and coaches complaining about refs. So, Freddie, I want to start with you because I've talked a while. Um, Cheryl Reeves' comments and Nafisa Collier's comments specifically about the referees. We're going to get into the rest of it after, but specifically about the referees. How do you feel about those comments?
Yeah, and we definitely do need to get into all the bigger picture things because
Absolutely. We're
there's a
trying to, yeah, we're going to go through it a bit more
yeah.
chronologically just because it helps our brains.
Yeah, because I will just say, I want to couch what I'm about to say with that. There's a player movement happening. Like this is a major, major event in the WNBA. You said it so aptly. This is going to be felt for a decade. This is a negotiating move. This was tactical. This was strategic. This made first take. This is massive, massive, massive. This is like gunning for Kathy's head, essentially. Like
Mhm.
this is really, really strategic and vicious, and um, you know, I agree with it. I agree with it for the most part, and where I think so. That's I want to get into all that. What I've always taken issue with when it comes to blaming refs is it's kind of layered because in one hand it's a naturally adversarial relationship, right? You are as a player you're focused on winning, as a coach you're focused on winning, and your two opponents and people or who are trying to stop you from winning is the other team and the refs. So when I played sports and you know in all sports really, like it's a fundamental belief of mine that the refs are a force that are there to regulate the game, and you're also competing with the refs, so it's your job to manipulate the refs, to make them miss calls, to take advantage of the rules that are there or aren't there, and you know advocate for yourself. Complaining, by the way, is part of that. So yeah, with that said, I think, the adage that like the people who lose games are the ones that complain about the refs the most is like is very true. Is very true. And, you know, I thought it was super interesting that she started her statement as like, this isn't about me losing. It's like, well, you didn't say it last week. And you said it after you lost. And you said it after you got injured. So, like, the timing there, you cannot remove the timing of what's happening. And then there's these bigger picture subjects, which I think are so valid. I'm talking about Nafisa, by the way. And it's the same with Cheryl, right? So, like, Cheryl, your complaints are attached to the loss. The whole Fever fan base exploded on the Aaliyah Boston call or lack thereof in that game. That's attached to a loss as well. The Aces didn't explode. Asia didn't explode. And I think that is something that is it's so widely accepted in sports that players and coaches are just going to come down on the refs as heavy as they can. And leagues generally are the employers of the refs, so they're always siding with the refs and they're defending their track record. Where I do see a real problem and where I think that fans don't have the data, and I believe the players that there's a reffing problem. I'm curious if the solution is attacking the refs. Attacking leadership in regards to the refs makes sense to me. But I read this really good New York Times article from June that was sort of because I was trying to find like what is the success rate of refs in the WNBA, and there's not really like available
Mhm.
stats. Like in the NBA, it's somewhere in the 90s. Again, though, that's according to Adam Silver, who employs the refs. So, right, is that true? I don't know. And I think that my general belief is that the refs are very good at what they do. They're not like the richest people in the world, and they're often in a pretty vulnerable position. So yeah, with all that said, it's like I kind of like hate that I'm leading with like defending the refs because there's way bigger picture. There's a way bigger picture here, and it feels semantical to me. But yeah, it doesn't sit well with me. Like, if part of what you're saying is we need to pay the refs more, because in this New York Times article they talked about how there's too many refs, like it's too high of a turnover in the WNBA, and too many of the refs are sort of seeking employment in the NBA. Like their end goal is the NBA, which pays more. So that's a problem, right? You want to keep the best refs possible in the WNBA. Like that's a league problem. And I get that. But yeah, I think yeah, I don't want to suck all the air out of the room. So I know we disagree on this a little bit, so at least a little bit.
Yeah,
So
well, let me get my
yeah,
perspective
exactly.
in. So, okay, so for just so everybody knows, we're not leading with this because of the semantics of it. I wanted to lead with this for two reasons. One, I felt like, we do the show weekly, and I just feel like it made sense to go in chronological order. Also, two, I feel like these events were the catalyst for what came after it, right? Like, I felt
Mhm.
like these events were what made people, quote unquote, snap and say, "That's it, we're going all in." So I don't really see this as semantics. I think this is a really important part of the overall conversation. So I think, Freddie, like, I agree that the refs have a very difficult job. I agree that the W should do everything they can to have the best refs in their league. Absolutely. I will go so far as to say I think the chant of "referees suck" is overused by fans. Like, that chant should be saved for really egregious moments, not just frustrating moments. Like, I feel
Mhm.
like you hear that chant almost every game now, and it loses its meaning. You gotta be choosy with that chant, I feel. But I think in watching this game 3, now, like I said, that last play where Nafisa Collier was very unfortunately injured on was
Yeah.
absolutely a clean play. Like, you can
All
see
ball.
it. It's all ball. The contact is
It
after
sucked
the
though.
fact. It's incidental. It does suck. But I think for Cheryl Reeve, the reason why she got mad, obviously, there's a lot of emotion in the playoffs. You just see your best player go down. But beyond that, like, this was her second tech in the game. This was brewing the entire game and probably throughout the whole season. And I think, Nafisa Collier didn't go to the line once in that game. And it is hands down the most physical game I've ever seen in this league. Like, without exaggeration, that game 3 was the most physical game I'd ever seen in this league. And for your best player to not go to the line once, it would almost be crazy if you didn't have that big of a reaction to that. You got Bridget Carlton ready to throw down in this game. Bridget Carlton, like, what in the Canada hell is happening
Shout out
here?
Cambridge.
Shout out Cambridge, man. Like Canadians, don't mistake our kindness for weakness, but if we're ready to throw down, then something serious. And I just feel like that, to me, speaks volumes to the degree in which this game was too physical and too out of line. And I feel like, people will see Cheryl Reeve and they'll see her level of emotion and anger. And maybe, I'm not speaking for everybody here or anything like that. I felt her emotions were completely valid given the situation, her points and her emotions. I think it would be egregious for a coach to not have those kinds of emotions after a game like that, especially in the playoffs. I think um it's fair for the league to fine her because you can't have people sacrificing the integrity of your game by going after the refs. I understand that, but I really didn't like the suspension. And I think this was where we disagreed online because I just felt like you're kicking this team while they're down and they were outright wrong. And also, I've never in my life, in watching all of basketball, any league, seen coaches in a completely different series defend the other coach. Like, usually people don't even bother
Mhm.
to get involved or to say anything, but they were also equally as riled up for Cheryl, and they have nothing to gain in doing that. Like, that to me speaks volumes of the degree of the situation that's happening. And I think, like, what struck me too, on top of everything else, was when they said that the league is pushing for a more physical game. That was part of Cheryl's statement. The league is pushing for this, and it's not protecting players. So it really, all her emotions really wasn't about that one play. I think if you're somebody who just, like fans who maybe just saw the highlights of this game, might not realize the context of what happened in the entirety of that game, or the entirety of the series, or in the entirety of the season. But I really think Cheryl had a great point. She is, the winningest coach in this league. I believe she's the longest tenured coach in this league by by several miles. And I just think somebody of her stature, deserves more respect than this. And I think the fact that she was punished so hard, like I said, a fine 6 times greater than any other coach had ever received, a suspension in an elimination game, I really feel like these are the things that kind of tipped things over the edge that led to the statements that Nafisa Collier made today. Not that she would have never made these statements, but I think that's why she made them now.
Yeah, so I mean, there's just so much here. So again,
I know.
just so I don't kind of like galaxy brain this and stick with like where we're at with Cheryl.
Mm.
I think with your points are like the larger context of this like cannot be ignored, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's just put that out there. Another thing that I think is really like I'm curious about, and where I feel like my semantical of like, hey, like the refs are people too stuff, where I can kind of like allow two things to be true is you're really having a lot of unanimous agreement here,
Yeah.
which that's something, and that's real. So like you said, you have like coaches, like Stephanie White, Becky Hammond, you have people kind of coming out, and those are like active playoff teams as well, right? So you're having really really respected people. By the way, Becky and Coach White also played in the league, played
Mm-hmm.
and coached in the league, both of them. So these are people really familiar with the league. And as far as like the physical trend, I think that's really fair as well. And these are going to be the type of people who really know the ins and outs of the league becoming more physical. Where and this is where I do feel kind of like semantical, where I was kind of like I understand the suspension is in all my basketball watching, I don't particular there's one incident with a Raptors player named Fred VanVleet where he called out a ref by name, and
Mm.
a lot of the rest of the league agreed with him, and that was like, whoa, this is intense. Um, but I don't remember a coach saying, but beyond sort of complaining about the refs, saying that like these particular refs should not be working in the semifinals. Like that's going for those refs' career and job. Like, and you know, obviously we're not going to do some docu-series of following the refs, but I'm curious what happens
We're
to
not
those.
Pablo Torre finds out,
We're not,
we're a different
but
show.
we're not. But I'm curious what happens to those three refs. Do they get a finals opportunity? Is their career over? I don't know. And I think if I'm the part of the refs collective, I'm like, whoa, 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 red flag. You cannot do that to us.
Mhm.
Like we're trying to do our best. And you know, unless it's some sort of like Tim Donahue shit, then I think the refs need to be protected. And by the way, if you don't know who that is,
Yeah, you can Google that,
yeah,
everyone.
you can
It's
Google
fine.
it. It's a crazy reference that doesn't really, it's not really a perfect comp. But the point of what I'm saying is that like if like these are like the context here is like there's this really building tension, right? But these are three people working a game. So you're going after those three people. That's intense. So I feel like those yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm doing a lot of like what about the refs? And I really do want to talk about the bigger picture
Yeah, I
theme
think
here.
that's fine. Like, you keep, like, I feel like, I'm
I'm
happy to.
apologetic.
Yeah, you don't, like, I don't want you to apologize for your opinions. And I feel like when our listeners agree or disagree with what we're saying, I think really what all that matters to us is that you engage with our content and that you're respectful, right? And I think you're bringing up valid points. Like even if though I disagree with things here and there, they're like I said, they're all valid, and it's not just semantics, Freddie. Like I keep saying, like the reason why we're talking about this is because it is not semantics. This is the catalyst for what is really happening right now, and that is really, really important in this timeline. So I think we should move on and talk about Nafisa. So Nafisa comes out with this prepared statement. Like I said, she talked about this league having the best fans and players in the world, but the worst leadership in the world. She also talked about the fact that she knows how to do Kathy's job because she does it in Unrivaled. So she knows how difficult it is and she knows how possible things are, which is a real shot. Absolutely. She talked about what she said about only losers complain about the refs. She talked about how Caitlin Clark should quote unquote be grateful that the W exists. I actually, if you don't mind, I'd like to talk about Caitlin first, if you're down for that.
Sure.
So my thing with this part of the statement, and the way Kathy's statement that pursued this, the characterization of her comments, is not a denial. So I'm gonna kind of go with the fact that she more or less said this. To me, this situation that Caitlin should be grateful the W exists, so she has a platform in which to earn money. That is every single athlete. Period. That is all athletes. Right? Like, what is she saying? That like Caitlin out of all people should be so grateful and like, I just thought that like and then people online are going on and on about how much money Caitlin makes. It's like, for the love of God, can we stop counting this girl's money? Like, that's not really like, I'm happy for her success. I want her to have all the success in the world. But in the grand scheme of the league, that is not the point. She like every single athlete in the world benefits from the league that they play for and the platform that that league provides. And it's ridiculous to suggest that Caitlin should be any more or any less grateful for that fact. It's not even an opinion, it's just a fact. But the way that that was said and pointing her out specifically, in my opinion, is just plain rude. And I don't like it. And
it's very it's
it's really out of pocket. It's an out of pocket statement to me.
So when we're getting to some of the claims that Nafisa has said, I think that if even if it's partially true,
it's brutal.
It's really bad. It's really bad. And it sounds a lot like be thankful for what you have. And it's very dishonest when it comes to Caitlin's pre-existing college platform. Very dishonest. And you know me, I'm the type of person
I mean, she's just, the comment, I believe, is just saying that she wouldn't be a professional athlete in America post-college if it weren't for the W, which is a fact. But
yes,
also,
but
it's like, that's every single athlete. Like,
and
what are you even talking about?
Caitlin, yeah, played in the college, is playing in the W, but like Caitlin is not solely responsible for her own platform because people built things for her. The situation with Angel elevated her, and she had this like string of amazing games, and for Iowa, and like I think just like she deserves what she has, and like the insinuation that like she's like owes that to the W is from that angle is like really, really
For sure.
not good. And same with Angel, same with Paige. So if that's that like of the many claims that Nafisa said, that's one of them that's like holy shit.
It felt like the most it felt like the most out of pocket. It felt like the most egregious one. And I feel like
can I just say
yeah, go ahead.
I saw a funny tweet that was like that like she started things off by like doing the bat signal to like she sent the bat signal to Caitlin, Paige, and Angel to like suit up and be like, guess what? We're about to like start bargaining. and we need the
Mm.
three of you big time involved. Like
Well,
you
yeah.
three cannot be passive in this. And here we go. I'm coming at the commish. Like, game on, you know?
So this is a really great segue to my next point. So Caitlin Clark said no comment
Mhm.
to Nafisa's comment. Now, that statement came out before game 5 of Aces Fever, and I felt like that is completely legit. Like, you were about to go into, an elimination game
Yeah.
with your
A
team.
Asia
You
also said no comment.
Yeah, Asia also
So,
said no comment prior to the game. Asia had comments after the game, but before the game, both of them said no comment. I think that was completely valid. I think something that is going to resurface as a storyline, which has happened with Caitlyn before, is the lack of outspokenness with her. And I think maybe this is something we could even have a lengthier conversation about, even in the off season, perhaps. But is this lack of statement from her? Because somebody like Angel Reese, she'll come out with the tweet right away on her thoughts supporting Nafisa Collier and things like that. People have been asking her to speak out against this wave of racism that has come with her wave of fans, and she did finally in a Time magazine interview last year, but she didn't squash it right away. She's gotten some criticism about that. I wonder, now we have not had, as of this recording, we're recording this Wednesday night, we haven't had the postseason press conference with the Fever. I really hope in that press conference, Caitlyn will take some time to acknowledge this in some way. It just made me think about her as a leader in this league, not just for her team, but in this league. And, back in the day, somebody like Michael Jordan was not a political guy, even when he was pressured to be. And they talk about this in The Last Dance and so on. And you can argue that one way or the other. He has built a brand so large, it will last many, many lifetimes after he's gone. And I think, from a more cynical perspective, not one that I personally share, you could argue that his not speaking out benefited him financially. And I think this is gonna become like a thing with Caitlyn. I might be going too ahead of myself here, but I just feel like this is an important thing with her that keeps coming
I
up.
mean,
And
Jordan, one of the famous quote is Republicans wear Nikes too.
right, right, exactly. Thank you. Yes, that was a very famous quote. And I think in these CBA negotiations coming up, we're really going to see who Caitlyn is or who she wants to be publicly. Like, there's a lot about her privately we don't know. We are not owed all of that, but I think this is going to be a major test to see to what degree does she speak up? Does she want to speak up? And I think it's going to become a larger debate about whether or not she, quote unquote, owes us, the league, the world, the fans, her voice.
Yeah, I get like the sort of like the Caitlyn and you especially compare like comparing her to her counterparts in like Angel and Paige, like there's no comparison. Like Paige and Angel are
Mm,
so outspoken.
mhm.
Um, Not everyone's a spokesperson in that way,
Yes, this is what I mean.
and I know this is going to be the weirdest time to mention his name because of all of the drama that shall not be getting into in this podcast. But I've been a close watcher of the career of Kawhi Leonard, who is someone who is just like out of this world talented at basketball, and he is not going to speak on issues. He's not going to speak more than he has to, straight up.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying Caitlyn's like that, but she doesn't seem to have an interest to go out of her way to kind of insert herself in the conversation. If anything, she has a disinterest even to correct some of the
Mm.
misnomers about her. So yeah, that we like, but your point's heard. Like we're gonna see a lot more of that. We're gonna learn a lot more about her. I also think people need to remember the ages of these players, and
Mhm.
you need to tip your hat to how wise and mature and well spoken and the advocacy of Paige and Angel. And then you need to remember that like that they should be celebrated for that. And I don't necessarily think that's someone who's not that level of a spokesperson. or know where they stand, I don't think they should necessarily be critiqued for that. But there is a certain amount of like, hey, we're all in this together, so you got to step up. So it comes with the territory. But yeah, anyways, it's the Caitlyn part of it's very interesting. Like the whole bargaining agreement in general is going to be like how she participates or not is going to be very, very interesting.
Thank you for that. I didn't mean to go too far left with the Caitlyn thing, but I just felt like it needed to be said because I just feel like, it's almost like planting a seed for us and our listeners to watch what is about to unfold in that area.
We're about planting seeds here, okay?
I plant seeds.
We plant seeds.
I water them. Things grow.
Wow. Germination.
Thank you. In terms of I think we kind of touched on her saying the regards to the refs and a change for leadership there. I think we kind of touched that already. In terms of Cathy Englebert's leadership, our Cathy Engelbert, who we have lauded, who we have met in person in Toronto. We have a photo with Cathy out of all people. She was very kind to us. She's probably the reason Toronto has a team, which we are going to greatly benefit from. I was shocked to hear that she has had these conversations with Nafisa behind the scenes. It felt almost out of character for how I have perceived Cathy to be. Like, I see Cathy as somebody who's always advocating for the league. She's on the Jennifer Hudson show giving Paige Beckers a Rookie of the Year award. She's kind of laughing with players when it's like all-star MVP time and things like that. Like, I really thought that Cathy had a better rapport with the players than this. And I thought a lot of this tension regarding the CBA was more with various team owners and not Cathy. So that personally, and maybe I'm wrong to be shocked by that, but that personally did shock me. And for people to call for her resignation, I think based on the comments is fair, but just generally surprising and frankly makes me kind of sad. Not because I'm like a simp for Cathy per se, but just sad that this was the dynamic all along.
Really, really interesting thing to think about. I sort of assume when there's a commissioner that they are business. So when she had that comment early in the Angel Caitlyn feud, that essentially, Adam Silver of the NBA also said this. Like, what do you think about all this this feuding? Adam Silver was like, good for business. And Cathy was like, good for business. And then people were like, what about all the racism? And she's like, whoa. I mean, long statement. We don't accept racism. And I think that like the business part of her speaks first and loudest. So I think behind closed doors, it doesn't surprise me that there's a lot of cynicism and kind of like cynical, like, hey, like, just like buck up. Like, we're I got you a big media deal. Like,
yeah, like you should be so grateful.
Yeah, exactly. Like that energy, that doesn't surprise me. But the rapport thing is interesting. And I'll posit this, that I think that even though, okay, the first part of what I'm saying is I feel like there's a certain theatrics to what's happening right now. And I think Nafisa knows that. I think the players know that. And I think it's a media war. So they are making sure that their talking points are out there first and foremost. So I'm going to get political here for a sec. Our American listeners, you're going to have no idea what I'm talking about. But
okay,
our airline, you have a bunch of airlines, right? United, Delta. We have Air Canada, and it's sort of like a monopoly. And there was a recent
There's WestJet, there's other Canadian airlines.
But Air Canada is like this really, really big airline. And recently there was a protest during the height of travel season. Now, the flight attendants protested, and it was a dangerous game because the public could very easily, selfishly just be mad at the workers for striking. But the workers were successful in getting out some key pieces of information, namely that they don't get paid while the airplane is grounded. So that was news to a lot of people. And they sort of won the media war, where in a sense, people were like, oh man, that's bad. Like that happens to the workers. And I think that's what we're seeing now a little bit with Nafisa and with the players. They're getting out this information. They're like, you know what Kathy said? She said this. And I think there's a lot of that. Like these are the talking points that are coming out before this bargaining agreement starts and really gets juicy, because they don't want the talking points to be like, oh, you're getting a big raise anyways, so you should be happy with 9% revenue split, or like whatever the sort of like, oh well, you got chartered flights, so chill out, or like any of that stuff that's like, hey, like basically like shut up and be happy. I think the players, this is part of a larger strategy for them to say, we're coming out aggressive. And I've heard so much sentiment this whole season about like, the players, like, this would be the worst time to go on a strike, and like, it would be so bad for the league. And pardon me, if you're the players, you can't think like that. You have to be like, now's our moment. What's the best strategy? How are we going to put the pressure on the league? And if we feel like we have a commissioner who's going to side more with ownership groups that in the past have not advocated for us, then we might need to replace her with a commissioner that's more favorable to us. And again, there's so much juice here, but I will also just say, damn, the WNBA is the best fucking league for this, because this is not happening in any male league. This is not happening in the MLB, the NFL, the NBA, the NHL. No way is a player of this status coming out and critiquing the commissioner. Like they're like, any player, any male player that does this, like they would be toast. Because like you're talking about a MVP front runner who lost it at the last second, trying to take the commissioner of the league out. It's absolutely just so wild.
So, first of all, this is now the second time you have brought up Air Canada and the employees on this podcast, which is absolutely wild that we have made that reference now twice. I don't know how people are going to feel about it, frankly. We might need more examples. Freddie, honestly. But your point was well taken. I want to ask you this, and this question was brought to me by a longtime listener of this podcast, friend to the show, Craig Pugh. Thank you, Craig. Is that, do you think due to Nafisa's role with Unrivaled, having a literal alternate league that is meant to work in conjunction with the W, but doesn't necessarily have to, do you think this is almost a conflict of interest from Nafisa, considering she runs another league? I'm not saying I do. It is. And I think like that is an element, because you and I are both very pro player. We always have been. We probably always will be. That is an element to this that I haven't seen anybody sort of punch back with yet. I don't know if we will, but I feel like this is part of the dynamic that maybe once the negotiations start is going to come up. And I believe she's part of the Players Association as well, Nafisa. Like she's front and center of these negotiations far and beyond just this statement. This is going to be a wild part of these negotiations. And I wonder, I'm just putting it out here, I'm not saying I know, I wonder to what degree she is fighting for her interest in her league. Just saying, just floating it out there. I'm not saying she doesn't want the W to thrive. I'm not saying that. But there is a conflict of interest here that is worth keeping our eye on at the very least.
Yeah, and what I will just say, and I think this is kind of like my ultimate pro player angle, there's a really good way for the WNBA, for the commissioner, for the, powers that be, to totally eliminate Nafisa's point. And that's pay the players
boom,
what they deserve.
Boom. Absolutely.
So boom. That's straight up like, you could solve this and be rich and profit And you could if you want, eliminate Nafisa and Stewie's league. But what they've done is they've said, like, our league day one is paying our players more than you're paying.
Which is leverage. Which is leverage.
Yeah, and that's wild, right? And it's like hey, you're doing prioritization. Like, I think and this is why I was like so hesitant to lead with, like, siding with the refs in a way, because like Nafisa's really hitting the nail on the head in the most important ways, which is, like, you think about the overseas and like the way that the W tries to manage its players. The best way to manage the players is to uh not be greedy, and to expand rosters, to not wait until there's a crisis to do chartered flights, to maybe pay the refs more,
Up
to
your rookie max.
up your
Hello.
rookie max, like, and to not sort of like force their hand so hard where you have a boiling point like we're seeing now. So I don't feel sorry for the league, and I don't feel sorry for Engelbert, like, at all. And
I completely agree there.
I think that's like this is where we're at in the
They
negotiation.
created this. Absolutely. They created this.
And what they want the public to, and this is always the battle with CBAs. They want the public to channel their frustration towards greed at the players, not the owners. So the owners are the wildly rich people, and then the players are just like, not in W, but in other leagues, the players are just like the rich people. But the owners are like, it's also easier for owners to rally. There's less of them, yada yada yada. So, but they really, this is how this kind of like public negotiation goes. So, I think the W, the players of the W and Nafisa are kicking ass, like, as they're wont to do, and this is really exciting. This is why I love this league so much. One of the reasons.
I completely agree with that, Freddie. I also want to shout out another comment from a listener of ours. Carrie S wrote to us and said, quote, "I'm mostly sad there will be no more Call Us Engelbert when she's gone." And then she wrote, "Cathryn and Freddie for commish." Freddie, can we do it?
Maybe, but it might have to change. Instead of Call Us Engelbert, it's going to be a plea for fee.
It'll have to be. But I also, I was thinking about this, and even though I don't have the resume per se, I actually do. It sounds arrogant of me, but I do feel like I would make a good commissioner. Maybe I don't have the business savvy, but I feel like that's the easiest part to learn. What I do have are the people skills, and that's what's missing in this position.
Wow, the new Kathy.
No one call me Kathy. I don't like being referred to as Kathy. Do not call me Kathy, please. Okay, but I had to say that. So, look, Freddie, I think we should move on and actually talk about this or this WNBA finals. My apologies.
Let's do it. And like, just like, yeah, we're running along here. So just like a couple quick hits. Holy shit, Fever. God bless you. What a run. That was amazing.
Absolutely. So first of all, I'm on new meds. So I posted on her social media, like, who else is crying? And then it occurred to me after, Cathryn, you might be the only one crying. But I was like actually in tears over this playoffs. Truly, like I was so like I was so like bittersweet over the Lynx Mercury series because I was sad for how the Lynx went down, but I was so happy for the Mercury. At the same time, they've absolutely earned this. I also felt like for the Fever, I've doubted them this entire playoffs. Most people have. They proved everyone wrong. And we'll see how things unfold between now and next season. But I'm inclined to consider them a finals favorite going into next season. If they are this good with so many people down, like this was like one of the great resilience stories. Really, like I love teams like this because they embody why we watch sports.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I really, really think that they had a very special season. I'm hoping for Mitchell, to not be too that what a like a weird, devastating looking injury, and having like numbness in her legs and stuff.
Yeah, it
Just
was really kind of scary how she went
very,
down in the
very
moment.
scary.
Yeah.
And I saw Rebecca Lobo post like the ref. I'm such a ref simp over here, but the ref helping her, and it was like, but it was
Yeah,
scary.
yeah.
It was scary looking, and man, the Fever just so decimated with injuries. So like, but to be that injured and to perform this high is just like
And you had Aaliyah Boston fouling out. Like it was just
incredible season. Like if you're a Fever fan, what a roller coaster with Caitlyn and everything, and then like for it to end this way, it's like yeah, you didn't make the finals, but like holy shit, like this is kind of this is like a high level octane drama of sports. Like you had an entertaining season.
absolutely. Okay. All of this aside, and I know all this latest drama, it's going to keep coming up as, in the off season and with the CBA, so we'll be revisiting this. It's important to kind of focus on this new W finals. A finals many did not predict, but I'm super happy is here. We've got the Aces versus the Mercury. We finally have a 7-game series, which is going to be incredible to watch. Really proud of both of these teams to get here. I feel like, the Aces had, with their historic comeback and then their continued push into the playoffs, has been extraordinary. You have Wilson putting up some of the best numbers we have ever seen in this league. Just really, really extraordinary stuff. And then I'm also with the Mercury so happy to see Alyssa Thomas in the finals, along with Dewana Bonner. I mean, in those Connecticut Sundays, just knocking at the door time and time again. They deserve another opportunity at a ring. And along with Kalia Copper, who we know was a finals MVP. I don't know if you saw this, but Candace Parker was at that game 4 and she was like celebrating with Kalia. It was really nice, just like a nice little throwback to their Chicago Sky days. I they're like, I'm just like filled with so much like positive emotions for both of these teams. I last week, I know I'm going on a little long here, Freddie. I'll try to wrap up. Last week, I talked about the Mercury and I talked about how they had some of the best overall team defense I've ever seen. And I questioned whether or not that level of intensity was sustainable. Well, they absolutely proved that it is. And I feel like this is going to be a tight series. And this might not be a popular pick, but I am going Mercury.
Woo!
I think they're gonna do it. They have been underdogs this entire playoff run, although we did predict that they would beat the Liberty. We picked the Lynx, but things really, obviously things crashed and burned in ways no one could have predicted with the Lynx. Their revenge tour will have to wait until next season. I don't doubt they'll be back on one. Um, I just think like I'm so impressed with their defense. And I think when they're like when Satu Sabali is hitting threes the way she has in this last game, they're really tough to beat. They do have to have a good offensive night for sure. If they have a really chippy offensive night, their defense can only do so much for them. But and I know I'm just repeating myself. I'm sounding like a broken record, and maybe I just don't have the right defensive stats in front of me. Their overall team defense is some of the best I've ever seen. And I just feel like with the Aces, this has been their Achilles heel the whole time, is that they just rely too heavily on Wilson. They rely too heavily on Jackie Young. And they're not going to be able to shut down Wilson individually. Nobody ever can. She's the greatest. But I think collectively, they can do a lot to slow her down. And if you can slow her down, you're going to slow that team down. And I think out of anyone, they have the best chance at doing that. Boom.
Boom. Great
Boom.
points. I
Come
feel
at me, Vegas.
so I think this is fun because we have another natural disagreement here. Everything you said is correct, and you rightfully put the caveat about like, can Asia, if anyone can stop Asia,
not stop, just slow her down.
Right. If anyone can slow down Asia, and so my answer to that is no one can, and no one will. And then the other part of that is, like Asia carries this team too much. That's also correct, and she will. So like that's for me, it's that still, and I feel like the Fever, for me anyways, almost made it seem like, wow, the Aces are sort of like struggling with a team that they should dispatch of. But then I think I was really just underselling the Fever, and I think the Fever were awesome. Like, do I think that the Mercury are the best team the Aces have played in this playoffs? Yes, I do. They're better than the Fever, and they're better than Storm, 100%. But Dana Evans has been good.
She's been excellent.
Yeah, Chelsea Gray's had flashes. Nalissa Smith has been awesome. And then, Jewel Lloyd is sort of hit or miss, but like she can do some stuff. And, Megan Gustafson is like, hit some big shots as well. Like, I think it is Jackie Young and Ajawilson sort of like, it's sort of like a 2-person show. And I think it's going to go 7. I think W fans are going to be rewarded by the first ever 7-game series
I hope
7 games.
Woo!
And I don't think everyone's going to hold up because it's a long season. It's the longest season, and it's the longest playoffs, and the roster sizes are still what they are. So, dear God, I'm nervous about it. But
facts, all facts.
Anyways, yeah, it's both teams are so tough, and it's just
both teams are so tough. I don't want people to think
basketball.
I don't want people to think I don't love the Aces or don't think that they're extremely good. They absolutely are. And I agree about the 7 games. I think this will go either 6 or 7 games. And maybe if it goes 7, I might swing more Aces because they have the home court advantage. However, I just feel like what the Mercury do really well isn't like yes, it's about the defense, but it's also just about the physicality. They're absolutely the most physical team in this league, and they annoy you. They annoy their opponents. I feel like we saw it with the Lynx. Like they got to them. Right? Like I mentioned it earlier in this podcast. We had Bridget Carlton ready to throw down. Yes, that's how physical the game was, but that's how much this team was getting to the Lynx, the championship favorite, the best team of this season. They got to them. And, again, all their complaints, all of Cheryl Reeves' complaints, all of Nafisa Collier's complaints, they're all valid. We support them. But buddy, the Mercury got to them, and there is just no denying that. And I feel like that's the part of it that I'm really kind of holding on to going into this finals. I think Alyssa Thomas particularly has been itching for that ring, and they can smell it. And I feel like they are going to do everything on this planet to get it. Not that the Aces won't, but I just feel like I'm just sensing an urgency from them, and I'm just kind of like, I'm just kind of clinging myself to that energy right now. We will see how things unfold. No one's a fortune teller, and if the Aces win, I'll be extremely happy. And this is all fun and all love, and I know these are 2 great teams, and it's going to be a battle. I don't know. I just like my Mercury pick, baby. I just do.
Right. And this is your team still until we're both tempo.
Until we got the tempo. So, so we'll roll with that. I like that we disagree. We haven't disagreed on a series yet. So we didn't even disagree with the Liberty. We both picked the Mercury to beat the Liberty. That was kind of like our
right.
Bit of an underdog pick here. So yeah, it's cool that we disagree in the final 7-game series. This is going to be so fun, Freddie. So fun.
Ruko's going to blow his voice.
You bet.
Ruco's down.
Am I gonna blow my voice? You bet. I messaged you this, Freddie. I don't think I mentioned it on the podcast. We had an FFQ about Rucoisms and what are some other lines he could adopt. And then one day he said chicken salad. In a podcast in reference to somebody's like footwork.
Pirates Ruco.
Buddy, I love you. I don't know if chicken salad is it. We might need to revisit that one. It's obvious you only used it the one time.
He'll make it work. Don't worry.
Ruco, hire us. We're here for you.
Yeah.
We can make it happen. Speaking of which, Freddie, I believe it's FFQ time.
Okay, so here's the FFQ. Have you ever been so mad? Or what's made you so mad?
Inspired by Nafisa, obviously.
Inspired by Nafisa and her Martin Luther nailing or Martin Luther nailing the new religious things to the church moment. It's going to change the course of history. What or who have you been so mad that like you could have like prepared a written statement?
So I've been going through something recently. It was kind of like, it was like somewhat poetic that out of all the moments, now was the time you brought this FFQ. I have had to prepare written statements lately and make complaints. And that is because I've had a mouse situation in my apartment. And this has been going on since late August. And I reported it immediately. And my building management is just doing the bare minimum. Like they came, they put down a few traps, they sealed like one hole, but not all the holes. I had to like report sightings again. They came back, they filled one with steel wool, but they didn't like proper seal it. And then I started seeing them again, and it got to the point where I had to write a formal complaint. I had to look up the landlord-tenant agreement. I had to tell them the exact amount of time they have to provide an exterminator. I mean, I've been losing sleep over this. Like, I'm very queasy about this kind of stuff. My dog's been going crazy. Like, we haven't been sleeping. I had to go and stay at my mom's for a few days because I was just like a shell of myself. Like, I wasn't falling asleep till like 5:36 a.m. Like, I was just losing it. And I wrote and then they wrote me back to be like, okay, yeah, we've called the exterminator. We'll let you know. And then I didn't hear anything again. And so I had to follow up and be like my last email, you have till Tuesday. We're recording this Wednesday night. This is literally yesterday I'm talking about. I was like, you have till Tuesday to provide an exterminator, or I'm going to file a formal complaint against this building to the province. And sure enough, I got an exterminator on Tuesday, blah, blah, blah. They came in, didn't really do a whole lot, put down a couple traps, pointed out all the holes, entry points to our maintenance guy who was just doing the bare minimum before. He came in, sealed them, was giving me a little sass, honestly. I could hear them talking about me behind my back in the hallway by my door, saying I'm the one who's been complaining a lot. I've been complaining a normal amount considering the circumstances. Yeah. And it's just been, I've been losing my mind over this. So I've been going through it. And also I'm just like, I'm stressed because I'm like, I don't want to have to move. Moving's really expensive. Rent in this city in Toronto is extremely expensive. I locked in on a really good rate. It would cost me $800 to $1,000 extra per month to move somewhere with the same square footage that I have now. Like, it would be a disaster. It would be a quality of life disaster if I had to move. So there's a lot at stake for me for this apartment to be like a peaceful place. And yeah, I had to write statements. I had to go there, and I fucking did. And I swear to God, Freddie, if I see another mouse in this apartment, so far so good, fingers crossed, knock on wood, blah, 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 I swear to God, I knocked on glass. There we go. Now I've knocked on wood. I swear to God, if I see another mouse in this apartment, I'm going to lose my fucking mind. I'm going to lose my mind. I know I will. Help me, people. Help me. Here. I don't know how. Just help me.
Stuart Little, don't even think about it.
Ugh. Yeah, you're right. Anyway, there's probably a better answer out there to this question, but that's just the most recent shit that I've had to deal with.
Here. Well, mine is the one that really comes to mind. Always hate to do this for a podcast, but something I did that I just there's two things I did that I simply cannot say on this podcast. But two large actions I've taken against um different companies. I got to make sure to protect myself.
Damn.
Yeah. But varying degrees of success. And the reason I'm not going to say is because they're not all the way over. But I do like as per my Air Canada stuff before.
Oh my god.
I do get this is not about Air Canada, but I do get activated, and I love it. I'm a big believer in letting your candidates, your city councilor or your representative, like letting them know what's going on and what's on your mind, and um, emailing them, visiting them, and uh, I'm all about it. So when I get mad about something, I do my best to take it to the source. So something I'm probably gonna do is my current city councilor, Frances Nunziata. I got a couple bones to pick with her. So I'm gonna focus on
This is weirdly vague, Freddie.
no, I mean, listen, there's I live on a very busy street called Jane, and there needs to be a dedicated bus lane. The people deserve it who live on Jane. It's a busy ass street. So I got a couple plans to put the pressure on Nunziata. So I'm coming at her. I think Cathryn muted herself because she's probably aghast.
Hello?
You're
No,
back.
thank you. Sorry, something happened with my mic. I've been reading more and more about how people need to contact their government representatives to get things done, as
It
opposed to
helps.
like passive like social media
No. Don't waste
petitions
time going on social media. Like
and things of that
show up,
nature.
show up to where they work, or email them,
Maybe
or
don't show up to
call
where
them.
they work, but
Do it.
email them.
Do it.
Email them. I don't
I mean,
know.
be chill, but like let them know.
All right.
Go to their
Well,
office.
all right. What a absolutely wild episode. We should wrap it up here. Hi, puppy. Oh, hello. Sorry, my puppy Zelda's come to say hi. Oh, and
Zelda's
she got and
activated.
if for those watching on YouTube, I got her first haircut. Her ears are so tiny now.
Oh,
Oh, she looks so different. Anyway, my
hey,
crazy.
tiny ear Zelda.
She's my child and it's ridiculous. Okay. Let's wrap it up there. What an absolutely wild week in the W. We love it. We love this league. We love the passion. We love the unapologeticness of the people in this league. We love the protest. We're here for it all. We're here for the players. We're here for the coaches. We're here for this league. So can't wait to follow and see more. And happy finals, everybody.
Happy
God,
finals.
it's gonna be absolutely fantastic. Thank you again, everyone, for listening, for tuning in. Let us know what you think about all the various things we've had to talk about today. We genuinely want to know your opinions. We always look forward to hearing from you. Like us, follow us, leave a positive review, all that good stuff. Thank you again, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, catch you next time. Hire us, Engelbert, before you get fired, Engelbert.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.